Okay, before the break, we were going over the course policies, sort of a general thing there. I kind of hit some big points that are, I do differently than what some of your other instructors, you may have seen other instructors do, or in the general classes around Ivy Tech. I do certain things a little bit differently. Those who haven't seen me before, make sure everybody was aware of those. And you can read through the syllabus. If you have any questions, let me know. I tried to make sure everything was written out straightforward. Well, before the break, we were looking at the type of assignments we'll have. So you'll set up a project, and what I always do for project proposals, even though your project's not going to be graded, what I always ask for in class is just go Google project proposal templates. In the real world, I'm not a big fan of templates, but in classrooms, I love them. Oh, whoops. Go Google free project proposal templates. We are in a classroom, and there are plenty of places that will charge you for those templates. So go look for free ones. I've been scroll past the sponsored ones, and you should see Smartsheet near the top. I've been using their stuff for a while. They have some nice templates. Not a big fan in the real world of templates in the business situations, but for classrooms, that document tells you what to write on it and where to write it, and it's a great learning tool. So just look for one of the templates, which ultimately comes to choosing the color you like. This one will work. Google Docs. Just download, and it should open here. If you open the Docs one, you have to come in here and make a copy. They put the instructions right at the top, so go make a copy of that, and just fill out the template. It's a good way to learn the ins and outs of project proposal. Obviously, no money would be exchanged in a classroom, but these two lines right here, I was trying to focus on the classroom. I know some of y'all have heard me give a little spiel before. The schedule and the budget are as trivial as can be in a classroom, right? The schedule is the due date or at the longest end of semester. And the budget is obviously 0 in a classroom. But when you get out in the real world, you'll fill out a big, nice proposal, make a 20-minute presentation, practice giving that, have all sorts of hoops you jump through. But there's only 2 lines that go about how much does it cost and when do they get it? And the only way to get good at those 2 numbers is to practice that. So just make up some numbers. Like instead of saying in the semesters, breaking out some dates. So like by June 9th, proposal accepted. By June 15th, UML diagrams finished. I'm just completely making up some numbers and break it down along the way. By June 30th, version 1 complete, and do the whole thing, and then make up some numbers to go with that for the budget. The first one's going to probably be complete guesses on it, right? But afterwards, come back and make little marks. Like, oh, I got another pen here. Come back afterwards and be like, okay, the 9th was ridiculous for that. I should have said the 11th, which pushes the 15th back. That should have been like the 20th, which pushes this back to the 4th. And make those little adjustments. And maybe you had 120 wrote down here. Like, okay, that with all those times pushed back, that should have been like 210. The first one's going to be a guess, but evaluate it. Make those little refinements. Because that's the only way you're going to get good at predicting those 2 numbers. And while you will always do the big formal proposals and presentations and all that, they only care about 2 numbers. When do they get it and how much does it cost? And if you can be accurate at those numbers, everybody will be happy. Your bosses, your clients, your coworkers. The general fallback is to try to go high. So then you come in under budget and early, but that's not, if you can be accurate, people will notice quickly. And the only way to get accurate is to practice. First one, just make up some numbers, see how long it actually takes, and make the adjustments so that the next time you come up with better numbers. And keep refining that, because if you're accurate on those, people will take notice of it. The standard is to have extra time and extra money, so it looks like you deliver it early and under budget. But a lot of people that do that aren't used to thinking everything through, and they haven't practiced it, so they still miss that. They think they're extending it, and then it still takes them longer, costs more money, and people have seen so many things like that. If you can be even reasonably close and act close on your estimates of how long it's going to take and how much it's going to cost, people will take notice and they will love it, and they will tell everybody they know about it, because that's one that people skip over. And the only way to get good at those numbers is to practice them. And in a classroom, it's always as trivial as can be. The schedule on it is by the due date, and the budget is 0. So this is a perfect place to practice those numbers. Even every little assignment you do, just practice. How long is it going to take? Assign a number value, a monetary value to that. And then by the time you graduate and start looking for jobs, you'll be really good at giving people those numbers they want. But just really, the templates come down to find one you like the color of. Choose the one you like the color of and just fill it out. And it's a great way templates are a great learning tool to see what goes in a project proposal. Your project's not evaluated, so just something you want to make. And this class is about version control systems, source code management. So this class is about the folder that is holding the project you're making, not the project itself. And we will be doing things in the terminal. So make sure you tell me which terminal you're going to use. PowerShell, Bash, These, Command Prompt. Command Prompt doesn't actually do anything anymore if you didn't know that. Windows removed it. They updated to PowerShell and they removed Command Prompt, and then that got some serious backlash. So they put something that looked like Command Prompt back in there, and it only accepts Command Prompt instructions, but all it does is forward them to PowerShell. In the background, it forwards them to PowerShell, which is an updated version of Command Prompt. It's one of those things that Microsoft did right. Every once in a while, usually we get so frustrated at that company, but every once in a while, Microsoft will come around and do something that is just like, it's done so well, you suddenly remember why Microsoft has that high rank in the world. It's like, oh yeah, because they do stuff like this. Every once in a while, PowerShell was that. Linux and Apple were working on modern operating system control languages at that time, and Microsoft released PowerShell first, and Linux and Apple just dropped their plans and went with compatibility. So PowerShell does work on every system.
I've noticed there are some commands that are slightly different.
Oh yeah.
PowerShell versus like Git Bash. There's nuance run into.
A little thing. There's always been differences though, like CD.
Yeah.
On a Linux system or any of the Nix systems, which would include a Mac, CD stands for change directory. It's a function. On Windows and Command Prompt, and if you do it in PowerShell, CD stands for current directory. It's a variable that holds the current location. So you actually change the value of the variable and it jumps to that, which is different than a function that changes the working directory. Little changes like that. PowerShell works on Linux and Macs as well. Fully compatible. If you use Kali Linux, that usually comes with PowerShell. That's the preferred one instead of Bash on Kali Linux. But just let me know which one you want to use. Git does come with a Bash shell that is configured to run Windows if you don't have a Bash shell already. Just not using a plugin. We will. So if you want to use your text editor, whatever your text editor is, if you do it from the terminal there instead of like the actual Git plugin, which we have in every single text editor. And yeah, it wouldn't really count as a text editor if we didn't have a Git plugin and access to a terminal. So let's do the raw instructions in this class unless it's specifically stated otherwise. Plugins are everywhere. Some are much nicer than others. Oh, there. There's one here I could just open up. So like if I opened up the Godot engine and open up a game engine, I'm teaching a summer camp using Godot. When I was right here, it's built into all of our game. It's already built into all of our game engines. We have to choose Git or one of the alternatives, which that's why I opened Godot, because the alternative is none. Unity and Unreal will act like they're alternatives to Git for source control management, but Godot is just like, yeah, you use Git or none. So that's the proposal. And then your personal repositories, look at those before you break. You'll just kind of follow the instructions with that project that you want to make. And it's about the version control, the repository stuff is the assignments. So the project itself won't be evaluated there. But if you have questions, feel free to ask. If I can help with it, I'll still be happy to help. So yeah, feel free to ask if you have questions. And on those other assignments, I kind of thought I was going to do it. And then when I settled on a certification, this is a certification course. This wasn't like the 1 credit hour ones where that's included in the tuition. This was not included, but Linux Foundations, they have 2 Git things. Linux invented Git, or Git was invented for the Linux kernel, and other people just started using it. This one is a $79 exam. If you've never taken anything from Linux Foundation, it's different than other certifications in that they don't ask you to do multiple choice questions. The Linux Foundation just records you while you do work in a bash shell, and then they watch the video. So when I settled on one of these, they have the beginning one, source control management. They also have a Git ops one, but it is considerably harder. It's $295. It might be $395, and it is very tricky. It's one that there's some things put in there to stumble people up, just to kind of look to see if you have 10 years of experience writing code full time. Those little things, right? We always see them asking for experience, and it's a language. The thing I'm saying is, right? We can make programs start working pretty quick when we learn languages, but it's a language. A 3-year-old can tell you about their favorite movie, but a 13-year-old can do a better job telling you about their favorite movie. So it improves over time. Programming languages is the same way. So they put things in the $300. It's a Git ops certification, so it looks a lot better on the resume if anybody wants to try it. It has $300 to spend on that. But I tried that $80 one, and the way that Linux Foundation does that, they just give you a bash shell and record it, and then they watch the recording. I decided to do that on these given ones. So you'll set these up, you'll download these files, and just kind of go through the steps. And there's a screen recorder built into Canvas included here. Over in the green navigation, if you scroll down, you'll see Canvas Studio. I use it all the time.
You're the first teacher I've ever seen use that.
Oh, it's great.
Nobody's ever used it, so it's a side button I've never seen used.
For those who have me in online class, those are the weekly announcement when it comes, and I'll come up with this, especially in the coding classes like Python. It'll just be examples. Like, okay, that tutorial was confusing. Oh, I have to dig back to it. I just made a 45 videos of them. I had to take what's normally 2 semesters of game development and try to make it fit in a week-long summer camp this summer. I think I'm gonna be able to do it, but I recorded the whole process and had some videos to help evaluate it. So yeah, like the weekly overviews, and it's like, okay, that Django tutorial is complicated in the Python course. Let me try to simplify that a little, things like that. I'm constantly sending those things out. just give me back to page 1. But it's Webcast-O-Matic. It's a very popular screen capture recording software. They have a free version and a paid for version. Oh, it's in front of all the way again. Make those small. Free version is pretty nice. The paid for version has more functionality and doesn't put a watermark on the things. This is the paid for version. The school paid for it. Fine. 300,000 licenses, they get quite a discount on it. But you'll just hit the record button, and the very first time choose screen capture or webcam. I can't do it because I'm on a Zoom call right now, but you'll hit screen capture. The very first time it'll download some software, just run the installer, and then come back and hit that record button again. And then every time after the first one, it just opens this box and you just open it, which I can't do because the Zoom call has the video. The Zoom call is claiming all those resources right now. And it opens a little record button will show up down here and choose some settings and adjust it. And it works pretty good, and just make us do a screen capture of working through those instructions. So like for module 1, you'll download this one where there's some changes. It's just a little Python script, some hello world thing added. And the changes have already been staged, but they weren't committed. So they aren't officially backed up as a version of the program. So you just have to go in and you'll run this instruction, then this instruction, then this instruction, and just videotape it while you do that. And throughout the semester, those are scattered around whether the instructions are included on these or not. But you'll just go through whatever the steps are for that, and then submit the video for that. And with those videos, you can submit it directly. If you use Canvas Studio, that's why I was recommending that. So if you go to start assignment, bottom one of the little tabs here is for Canvas Studio, and when you click that, I'm in the student view, so there's not anything here. We also have the record button here, but whatever your videos you have in your library will be there, and you'll just select that, and you can submit it directly from there. So I'll leave student view. You can also use that in your discussion boards. So if you would rather do a video, you can use Canvas Studio, and any place there's a thing. I'm going to settle it because or people have those on that, so I need to pull that out. But under the plugins button, any place there's a text editor, it remembers what you've been through. Notice there's a GitHub. We have a GitHub thing in Studio. You probably haven't used that in your courses either. Once this becomes an official course, yeah, the GitHub plugin that you've probably seen in your IDEs or text editors, we have one of those in Canvas. We can do that right in every level. So once this becomes an official course, I'll probably start using that in some of the SDEV courses. But down on Canvas Studio, you can just click this, and this is on my phone, and then you just choose whichever one of your videos you've recorded and put that in your discussion board. So if you don't feel like writing, just turn on the webcam and talk to your classmates. Make a little video of it. Feel free to do that. Or reply to people that way if you want to, right? This is 2023. We can do better than a keyboard. We're going to have at least one discussion board where the ChatGPT writes it for us. The point of that discussion board will be to evaluate the chatbot and share tips and tricks with your classmates. The discussion part, not necessarily what the prompt's going to be, but yeah, we can do better than using these things like a typewriter. What was that? So that's how we put those videos in, and that Canvas Studio will also work pretty nicely for that new technology report if you want to do a video one, because It's a report, so kind of thinks to news reports pretty well. Please leave any politics out of it. So not like the real evening news report. But, talk about technology and your opinions on that, things like that. So that's kind of what's going on with those. It's looking good. I just did a factory reset. Does anybody have any questions on policies or those general idea assignments? See head shaking no in the classroom. Put this up where I can see everybody's pictures just in case there's a more I don't think that'll block anything on the TV. So I need to install Git, so I'm going to open the terminal. However you open your terminal will be fine. So just do the Git stuff from the terminal. So if you normally go to it directly and do all your work there, on Windows machines, it's nice to do it from the Explorer. So if we navigate to like the documents / delete folder, we're in here, and we can just start PowerShell from right here. That can be a really useful one because then you're looking at the pictures, and then hit Alt D to get to your address bar. It's an address bar on a Windows machine, so Alt D is in the third letter or second letter of address.
I don't even know how I did it. So at some point I managed to get a taskbar shortcut to all of my shells except for Git Bash. It didn't link in there, but like I have, PowerShell, PowerShell Plus, command from Azure, developer PowerShell.
Yes, I can show you how to put Git Bash in there. So
but yeah, it was just one of those links. I don't even know how I did it.
Some people might be curious. So if you go to, it's connected to the new Windows terminal, which again, if you haven't used the new Windows terminal, this is another one of those things that Microsoft did really, really well. This is fully customizable in JSON. So if you go to settings, so right here's all the different command prompts. I just did a factory reset. I usually have like at least 6 or 7 going. You'll create a new machine, a new profile, and
so I get a list of, can't find my list of profiles. Like I never use it, but
yeah, and whenever you create this, I'll just create one from here. Do empty profile. Right here, the command line instruction, just point that to where Git Bash is installed.
okay.
So just go down here and put the file path to the actual bash.exe file right there. And then that will show up on that other shortcut you're talking about as well. So I just completely like this. I don't have Git on here at all, which often takes extra steps because Git is included in pretty much all of our terminals by default, at least a basic outdated version. So even if you're on Linux, which is guaranteed to have it, you probably want to update because they have they've improved the security. So there's a couple options. We'll talk about those at some point. There's tokens, which give you a big long string of human readable things, kind of like a key pair. One side of the pair, but it's in human readable form, and you enter that like a password. It won't take regular passwords anymore. They improved the security requirements. But if you go download the latest, if you type download Git SCM is the actual name, Git Source Control Management. You'll see this, and then there's the instructions for your particular one. So if you're on a Mac, the instructions just type brew install Git, and that'll get the latest version. If you're on Linux, Unix, it's depends on your system, either apt or yum or whatever system you're on, just install Git. It is actually Linux software, so it's definitely in whatever system you're using. Windows, I'm going to do this one, but also it's a good idea to look at release notes. So the latest release was June 1st, so a week ago. Most of these it's pretty well established. Most of these are gonna be high end, but some obscure changes. So something about the headers in the background, hide references, so something way in the background. Most useful when there are many unrelated histories. So that's kind of for when somebody's using Git as a backup system. And there's lots of things that aren't connected like they should be, and it's used more for a backup system. And allow the deletions of one level names. We might get here near the end of the semester. I don't think we'll get this far. Yeah, internal references that humans would almost never work with. We might see this near the end of the semester, but we can delete them now. So our delete button works on some internal things that it used to not work on. That's questionable whether we'll get there. Bisect reset can be useful. It's already checked out. And this is a nice update. Subcommands have been taught to stop users from working on a branch that somebody else is working on at the same time. So if you and another teammate are both working remotely or at home, you access the central, wherever the central storage of it is, and you both try to pull down and work on the same branch, Git will start popping up warnings and be like, hey, your teammate Sally over in Manhattan is working on the same branch at the same time. It'll just keep track of who's working on the same branch. So if both of y'all are working on the same branch, it'll notify you. It's like, hey, somebody else on your team is working on the same branch at the same moment. One of y'all might want to create a new branch. And just a warning thing. The thing I wanted to look at here, you all can read through those. So that's kind of the only low level one that I'm quite certain we will get to this semester. And that's a useful thing. It's going to pop up a warning message. If two of us make changes to the same branch, it'll tell us, hey, somebody else is trying to change that same branch at the same time. But you always want to watch out for these things. This is a high level thing. Has to do with how the source code is distributed as far as open source, like forking off things. There's a nice little patch that does break backward compatibility. So that means if you have an old repository, this would cause problems on your old repository. You would need to migrate that to a brand new repository on the latest version in order to use this new feature. It's not backward compatible. This one will only work on a repository created after June 1st of this year. So was that last Thursday? So this will only work on a repository created after June 1st of last year. So watch out for things like that. But in general, those are high level things. Those are gets pretty well established. They're not going to change the base functionality. So we don't really need to read those. And I probably wouldn't have if I wasn't teaching this course this semester. And I saw that, I was like, oh, nice. There's a break backward compatibility, so I can point that out in class. At least when it's in there and hit Control F and look for the word backward to see if the latest version see where the latest version breaks backward compatibility. Not just forget. That's probably a good idea in general. Whenever you're going to new software, just do a quick check to make sure it's to see how it goes with backward compatibility. So we'll just download this installer, nothing fancy here. Download one for your system. I just went ahead and did the factory reset a couple days ago. I started calling that a batch for the computers. They were so much better afterwards. I tend to break computers a lot too. Over the spring, I was constantly breaking mine. That was going on in the first 8 weeks, wasn't it? Didn't I come in with break my computer a couple times in class, have to reset things?
I think so.
Maybe it was a lot more in the second 8 weeks. And the database topic kept showing up because there was something that's changed in Windows 11. I was filling out forums, and I've been using Windows for a very long time. So I kept breaking my computer trying to figure out how to answer those questions that were popping up in the forum. Because it was a sudden change and Microsoft didn't bother to tell anybody that they were changing it or what to do. So all kinds of people were just panicking because what they've been doing for the last 10 years or so no longer worked. And and a whole lot of those people didn't know what to do about it except put the question in the forum and wait for somebody to answer. But none of us knew the answer to it. So I continually was breaking my computer to see what was going on with virtual server, with a slight change on virtual Linux machines. It didn't affect many people, but it was leaving people confused with the virtual machines. So I ran the installer, got the normal message. I don't think that shows up on the video. So nothing fancy about the installer. There's one thing you probably want to change when you go through here, go to next. We can change it later if not. There's a bash shell that comes with it. There's also a command one. So if you're on a Mac, it'll also give you the Windows command version to use on a Mac or Linux. Git GUI we'll look at later this semester, as well as a much better one. We'll go through here, choose where it's going, that's fine. I'm going to set Vim as the default text editor. We will need this. So when we go to check our logs, in particular in the commits, it wants to open it needs to open in a text editor. So you do need to make sure and choose the text editor you want. Vim is just the text editor there in your control panel. It's been around since like the 70s, so it still uses some of the 1970s syntax. The M stands for improved. It was improved in the 1990s, and the improvement is they added colors. Some of the things throw people off. Like before the terminology settled in, one of the options for what eventually became copy and paste, one of the options was yank and put. And the people that created Vim back in the late 70s, early 80s, or back then it was VI, before they improved it in the 90s. They like that other terminology, so copy is Y, not C. Because before we settled on the word copy, yank was one of the options, yank and put. And you can choose basically any of your text editors. There's a bunch on here. I believe we will download some. I'm just going to stick with them. That will open up in the text editor, but if you don't see it on the list, you can select other and just navigate to it on your computer if it's already installed. And some of them, like Notepad++, I don't have that, or VS Code. I don't ever use VS Code. It would just install those since I don't have them on my computer. I love the one in the terminal. It works. It uses different shortcuts. It throws a lot of people off, but it's from before the days of the mouse. So it is really, really nice once you know the shortcuts, because your fingers never leave the keyboards. You never have to use a really slow mouse or anything else there. Everything you do is right on the keyboard. So once you know those shortcuts, it's really, really nice for running code in. Just in the name of the initial branch, if you choose that first option, it's going to call it master branch. A couple problems with that, aside from it's just generally offensive. So like GitHub and GitLab and all the alternatives stopped using that as the name of the primary branch. It's not a master situation because it's a distributed system. Every branch is really equivalent to every other branch. So it's just what our primary branch is, our default branch. So aside from being generally offensive to a large percentage of the population, it's not a very good description. So all of the online repositories we would link to, GitHub, GitLab, whatever AWS called theirs, I can't remember that. There's a whole bunch of them. They've all switched to calling it the main branch. But you can give it whatever you want and you can customize it. This is the one that when somebody goes and tries to run the code, that's what they're going to look at the default, unless they change to a different branch. So you probably want to go with main to align with things later. But we can control all this later. We can just, there's an instruction where we can just change what our default branch is. Actually, we will constantly be changing branches before long. Otherwise, the defaults are good. The recommended one here is probably good to start with. We'll learn what some of the other ones are. The bundled SSH is good. SS secure sockets layer. The OpenSSL will handle all of the credentials, so we don't have to worry about how passwords aren't considered secure enough anymore. It will do authentication too in the background for us. Whoops. Choose the line image you want to use. And again, we can control all of these. Everything else is probably good in defaults. The big one is choose the text editor you want the logs to open in, and the name of the default branch. Because none of the online systems that we would link to once we get there in module 4, I think, might be module 5, none of those use the word master for the default branch anymore. So you probably want to change that. Yeah, everything else is probably good by default. And then just run the installer. Really no surprises there. And anything, those settings we have complete control over it, so we can adjust those before long. And hit finish. Now if we're going PowerShell. So Git, we see the basic instructions. I think, what did I put on there? So most of everything we do here, we'll start with Git. I'm going to switch to my working directory. Document/delete. Actually, I'll just make a new word. Make directory, class stuff. I can't remember why I downloaded that profile picture. So I should probably try to remember why I downloaded that earlier today before I just deleted it out of there. I can download it again. So most all of our instructions, we're going to start with the word Git. If we just type that, we get a little help menu. Most of our parameters have 2 dashes in them. So what did I ask for in the instruct in the first assignment? It was version. So yeah, print out what version it is. Info something.
Just maybe go info-path.
Oh, info path.
And config list.
Okay, and then git, and then config is another instruction. So these are just parameters, just general information, and then most of the stuff we do is going to look like this. So we're using the Git software. There's a config function in it, and list shows us the configuration details. So all the stuff here, filters are set up. Notice there's not a username. This is something, when we try to make a commit, you'll see it as part of the error message, but we need to set up, put in my name. So git global config. So set the global configuration. Did I do that backwards? I might have done those backwards.
It says not a command on my computer.
Thank you. Config -- global. Okay, yes. So, and this one, when you try to do a commit, if you haven't assigned a name yet, it would automatically do it. So I want to keep track of who I am. So that way on all the versions it's set there. So go to git config, and then global user.name equals, I'll put in my name. And if you don't do this when you make the first commit, put it in like that. I need spaces. When you make the first commit, this will show up as part of the error message. So make sure you put these spaces if your browser requires that around the equal sign. And then we need to also put in the contact information, user.email equals, and then enter the email you're going to use on GitHub. So when we get to GitHub in a couple weeks, enter whatever email you're going to use for that. And this one could wait for a couple weeks, but if you don't do this by the time you try to make changes to the repository, it will be part of the error message that shows up because Git doesn't know who is trying to make changes to the repository, who is trying to change those versions. So now if I run that git config list again, should see the name on here. Oh, why didn't that open? Well, showing it as blank. I'll probably type something wrong there. But most of our instructions are going to look like that. I just wanted to kind of do a few things. I guess in preview mode, I didn't really have anything too much planned after downloading and installing Git. I wanted to look at those. I'll make a quick repository here. So if I come over and look at the folder. So here's that folder, just a completely empty folder. I think hidden items are shown. View. Show hidden folders, so there's nothing not appearing in the image here. So completely empty folder. The first thing we want to do to initialize it is git init, and I always just use dot. Dot is the shortcut for the directory, the current working directory, and then dot is the parent directory. So the current directory, and then go up a level. Y'all have probably seen that before. So that creates it as a repository. So now we have this hidden folder here. And this is where all of the information about previous versions show up. We'll get to stuff. The first week's assignments are basically just to check this stuff, make sure it's installed correctly. So you will do all of that, and then you'll zip the folder, and when I download it, I'll make sure that .git folder is there and all the stuff in there. We look through, there's not really anything in this, so we have a whole bunch of empty folders at this point. References, this is that change, so on references on tags, we can delete these now. That's a new thing as of June 1st. So that part's kind of nice. Here's that config file. So that dash list, when connected to some of our configurations for this local repository. That's why we need that global on that command over here. I just need one dash there. Nope.
I'm noticing because I have, user dot in my list, user.name equals Nathan, but then I say user.name equal, and I don't know if that's a difference because there's a double equal. I have two usernames in my config list. one with my name and one with a double E.
Yeah, I usually pull up that, usually what I did on this one, I try to cause the error message. Oh, that did cause it. That did do it because now that gave me another one with three
Yeah.
equal signs on it.
Now I have one with 3 gaps. So somewhere we're creating it.
So it's there. Oh, it's not an error. It's just hidden. So so that people can't. It's secure.
Oh,
So it's there because it wasn't there on the very original version. Can I scroll up that far?
yeah, because Asmo,
Oh,
when I
sorry.
put Nathan in from one other time.
So it is still there. So if I was to make a commit here, let me add a file. I'll go to Sublime and add a readme.md. So MD is markdown language. This is what we do to make our readmes. I believe this is do that. So if you're a VS Code user, you would write code readme, and then that'll open text editor. I like Sublime text editor. Sublime 4 makes use of a GPU, which is a subtle thing on the text editor, but it does kind of speed things up with predictive text and the lexing, all the color changing and all that stuff from the lexicon of the language. So on a README, we put a pound or the markdown language. Kind of like markup language. Most of y'all have probably seen HTML at this point or XML at this point. Just a different syntax. We don't use the tags, so we have different special characters. So for a level 1 header, we use 1 pound sign. Intro class and Sublime text editor knows those. 3 underscores is a thick horizontal line. Then like a level 3 header is 3 pound signs. So we still have, just like in HTML, we have the 6 levels of headers, and just give that many pound signs instead of H1 tag, H2 tag. But markdown languages will also recognize the regular HTML tags as well, if you prefer that. First examples, the 3 dashes is a thinner horizontal line. Just a few things in preview mode before we actually get started in class. So we can save that. Could do all this stuff from right here in the terminal. I'll just go back to the regular one. So we have a file there now. Clear. I want to make sure I'm using the right one, since trying 2 equal signs, right? We learn by trying things. It's a computer. We can always roll it back, and that's the biggest thing about motion control is we can always roll back. Git is really nice because we have more than one way to roll it back. We're not even restricted in how we roll back to a previous version. We will see that soon. I'm going to make sure that user.name is set with 1 equal sign, since I apparently created an extra one in there. So with this user, so if I like add those files, readme.md, typically I use the dot here as well. So git add all of the files. That looks through and to see what's there. So that given assignment this week is up to this point. I'm going to start adding them. So what you'll do is then you'll download that folder, start the recording, and you run the git status command to see what's going on. So we're on the main branch. No commits have been made. There is this file staged that's ready for something to happen. So we need that to actually happen. We'll talk about commits next week. So I'll go through. We don't have to get this far. Git commit -m, it stands for a message, so we can identify it.
My favorite XCXD comic. It's all about commit messages.
Yeah, they're great. I would, I haven't looked in a week, but any comics from the last week are the old ones I haven't read. Makes a CD. He needs to update What If. He hasn't done that lately. He must be making another book. Oh, sorry, distraction. So we do have to give it a message. And this is to identify it, but not like ask for it in code. This is so we can identify it on the list. So this is initialized with a README file. And so tells us what was made there. Git commit dash whoops dash append. This will be an important one later. Oops, is it not append? Oh, amend. Sorry. Git commit, and instead of making a commit, I'm going to do dash amend. Is that the right word? Okay. So this is why we have to set up a text editor, because we need to access that log and see everything that happened. So it's called initialize with a README file, and other things can go in here. But then you'll see down here when it was made on the branch main was the initial commit, the changes, what changes were made, and all those details. So an entire description of that version of this project, I guess. And if you're in Vim, type of colon, you see it showing up down there at the bottom. A colon will start giving you instructions. Well, if you type I, you go into insert mode. So type I to insert and go around and do all the editing there. Then
Long time since I've used them.
escape, and a colon and Q is quit. So to close it, colon Q, and if you have changes, colon QW will quit and write the file. So it's all one letter instructions like that. So you can do everything in your text editor and never touch your mouse, which is really slow. So a useful one, but you can set it to open with whatever thing you want. We also do logs a lot, git log. Oh, it did not record my name. I must have made a typo when I did that. I'm just in preview mode. Well, I usually do that one from the error messages, but what did I miss there? Git -H will pull up the help list. So config. Oh, I think that's probably what I should have been doing. Git config -global, then user.name equals my name. Nope, it didn't like that either.
Are you trying to just do that straight up command? Because I did it without the username. I just did git config --global user.name parentheses.
Oh, did I forget parentheses? That's probably what I was doing, like this.
Space and then or I don't know what quotes. Sorry, not quote. It's quotes, not parentheses. Yeah, just get rid of your parentheses, and then that worked for me.
Oh. And I overwrite multiple values with a single value. Replace all. So -- replace all. And notice how we get useful. Notice how useful the error messages are here. It tells us what's going wrong and everything. So I apparently should not have been adding that. Anyways, there we go. So now it knows what my name is, and can probably delete some of the other one. Do the same thing for the other one. So git config --global user.email, and then the email that you want to use. I put an equal sign there, which apparently we don't need the equal sign. Sorry about that. But notice how we have full control. We can fix the things as they go wrong. Then we can go back in here and remove all of those. Where's the list command? So now if I make another commit, so let me maybe edit that file. I'll go back in Sublime, open the readme.md. A quick edit to the file. Save that. Close that. And Git add, and you can type just the file name if you want to restrict it to just the file name. I think it'll be next Tuesday before we talk about how to ignore certain things. That's next week's stuff. I usually just say git add dot to just add all the changes. Git commit, give it a message of a few changes. Shows us what's there. And if we pull up the log, we see that information of who made it, who made those changes, when they made them. We can get back to any of those changes. Well, let me do this. Sublime readme.md. Open that up. There's our current version. We close out of that and git revert that. A few changes one. I think it'll work here. See this right here? That's the name of the commits. It's a big long hexadecimal name. So before I do revert, let me do a better log. Git commit not commit. Git log. If we add one line in, it gives us an abbreviated version, and the first 7 digits of the names those first 7 hexadecimal digits will be unique. So if we need to refer to the commit, that's how we ask for it. So that message we entered is actually a way to find that on the list. The name is much bigger. If we pull it git log, you'll see there's a big long name, but it's organized in such a way that the first 7 digits should be enough until your repository is huge. Right? Until you have a repository as big as like the Linux kernel. Anybody ever seen the full pictures of those, all the functions and stuff? Linux flavors. Pull up images real quick, and here's the branch tree of all the versions of Linux. So until your projects get that big, you'll be fine with just the first 7 hex digits for the name until the branches start to look like that. So one line makes that a little bit neater. There's nothing fancy here, but we can also pull up graphs here. One line -- graph. There's no branches to have lines go anywhere, but this would start showing some images to show connections between things. Git log, one line, and maybe we didn't want to make those changes. Like, whoops, didn't mean to make those. So git revert. I think I can use the message here. I have to use this one. A few changes. No, it didn't. Gotta use the name git log one line, because a bunch of hex digits doesn't mean anything to me. So we'll find the human readable part and use that to copy and paste this. Git revert this one, and it shows us. It jumps over to the text editor, so we jump back into BIM. It's getting ready to make another commit that is going to revert this, which modifies the README, so that all looks good. So when you do when we see this, just go ahead and hit the colon and Q to quit Vim. If you're using this, if you set it to use VS Code or something, then just close out VS Code like normal and get back to your terminal. And now if I open that file, if I go back to Sublime and open readme.md, notice we are back to the earlier version. So there's our version control. We can jump back and forth to any of them. We can actually get back to that one that I just, since we just reverted, we didn't reset it, we can get back to that other one, but this is preview mode. And that's mostly what we'll be doing in this semester. We'll be doing all of this. We'll be doing this stuff in the terminal, learning about Git here. And when we go to GitHub, we'll be looking at that as far as the tools on how we manage a team. So obviously version control isn't really for an individual. Right? An individual could just keep it in one folder and keep track of all that stuff. If they needed to make the change, if they needed to not do to go back to that previous version like we did right here, that one individual could just go in there and delete the code. But this is for when we're on a team of 10 people and it's like, whoops, made a typo, roll it back, and then nobody else on your team sees the typo you made. Or maybe you got flooded with emails from everybody else on the team and like, what were you typing there? Get back to the previous version. That shouldn't have been committed yet or something. So it's more of a team thing. So there is a group project later. It'll be straightforward, just kind of like the project. It's going to cover 3 weeks, but then by the nature of version control systems, it's a group thing. So when we get to GitHub, we'll be looking at project management tools built in there mostly. The things that we definitely run out of time for in our regular SDEV classes. Okay, so that passes 8:20. I was looking at the clock, wanting to just fill space till 8:20, because this will probably be the longest night of the semester, but that still leaves 30 minutes on our time frame. This is what we'll be doing most of the semester. And like that. Your own project, you can do some stuff, you take screenshots of that, or those given projects where you'll download that, and there's just a few more steps to carry out. Sometimes they're written out, sometimes just describe what to do. Hopefully it goes straightforward, and just make a video of carrying out those steps on the given one, because that is the certification that I decided to recommend at the end. It's an $80 certification, and then you would have something that shows you're an expert in Git, SCM, and GitOps is one of the big labels in software development. The person in charge of Git control, so working on that path, even the first couple steps on that path will look really, really nice on your resumes. So that recording what happens in a bash shell is how the Linux Foundation does certifications, especially that one.
I assume
We will definitely match that one.
If this campus is a the proctor location for that exam.
So it is not, it's only partially proctored. They log you onto a Zoom call and record the Zoom call.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They don't even do environment checks. They check your ID, make sure it is who you are, and I mean, obviously, a human reviews the video. So if they see something funny in the video, like
See you pull
it's a Zoom call for your thumbnail, so you have to keep the camera on.
Right.
So yeah, a human checks it, but it is a video. But they actually, Linux Foundation does it through Zoom call. They put you in a Zoom call and record the Zoom call, and then they watch the video. So I decided to do some of that way, and so we have some more folders here show up. Here's those logs, the references, the heads, our main branch, all that information is filling out in this folder. You can kind of click around, look at the different things. Different changes. We'll get to those. Hopefully you saw the error messages that we get are very, 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 very clear, very precise what needs to happen. And oftentimes, the error messages include the code that you need to do to fix the error message. It's kind of the sort of did you mean to type this error messages? Those are really, really nice to get. And we'll develop an understanding of what is a deeper understanding than we see in when it shows up. It's just like one lesson in all the different classes. They're using a plugin and actually understand what's going on with it and all the control of it. It's a useful skill to learn. Got a lot to cover this semester. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, tonight should be our longest night. I was watching the clock for 8:20, thinking we would definitely be done by 8:20 every night this semester, so we'll make sure this is the longest one. But that still leaves us, what, 25 minutes here? That if you have any questions, let me know. I'm just gonna be sitting around until 8:50, ready to answer any questions if they come my way. Otherwise, it's been 5 seconds since I asked that, so that's time for people on Zoom call to unmute. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all on Thursday, and we will jump in a little more in depth instead of just the random previewing things like we did there, because there was still a little time to pass. All right, have a good one.
Thank you, Professor. I actually had